everybody. So for today's tutorial, we are going to be doing a grid drawing of a portrait. So what you are going to need, you're going to need a pencil with an eraser. Mine doesn't have any erasers. I'm going to use the handheld eraser. You are going to need the grid worksheet and one of the two portraits. Now it comes, on a sheet like this, but I just cut it off just to make my life a little bit easier. So the very first thing we're going to do is we are going to label our grid using letters and numbers. So I'm going to do letters across the top on both the reference and my drawing sheet. And then along the side, we are going to put in numbers. So the purpose of the grid drawing is to accurately replicate your reference by going slowly and kind of chunking down the picture, so it's not so overwhelming that, oh my gosh, I have to draw this whole portrait. This is really scary. This is really hard. When you kind of break it down, we go box by box. It's not so scary and not so difficult. All right, so now that we've got our grid all laid out, and you can do it on all four sides if that helps you. We are going to start one box at a time. So I usually tend to like to start with something towards an edge, like the neck or the hair. I don't typically, jump right into the main details like the eyes, because those can be a little bit overwhelming and you kind of want to take this slow. So I can see that his neck starts in B12. So I try to pay attention to where the lines start and end. So okay, it's not actually touching the side, so it's going to start, kind of towards the bottom, but then it comes up and it meets almost halfway. So I want to try to replicate that line. Okay, great. Now I'm going to start to focus on the next box above. So I notice that it comes up and then it's hitting that corner nicely. Now to make sure that I am kind of getting this line correct, sometimes I'll actually pay attention to what shape the negative space is. So the outline I kind of consider the positive space, and even though he's not see-through, I'm kind of using this shape here as a guide to make sure that my line is kind of in the right shape, so it kind of comes up to that curved point. And like I said, we're just going one step at a time. Now, sometimes when we get to certain areas, it can feel, really overwhelming, like for the hair, for example. Like some of these boxes have some crazy detail going on. Let me kind of zoom in for you. So there might be some crazy detail going on, and it might be really, really distracting and overwhelming. So you can make a little viewfinder. All this is just cut up paper. I cut it up. I placed the paper, side by side, so I can actually take this off and apart real quick. So all I did was I took these different papers and I took a piece here, piece here, and I kind of measured out my boxes, and then with a little piece of tape, which now I need some more tape because I just kind of ripped my viewfinder apart, I make my little viewfinder, and what that does is it makes it's almost kind of like little blinders. It helps me focus on just one square at a time. I'm not looking at the overall big picture where it's kind of, again, really scary and whatnot. Okay, so here I've got my little viewfinder. It's a little wonky now because Oh, it's a little off, but that's okay. Okay, so for example, for his hair, that can be a little bit intimidating, but having the viewfinder there, I can kind of notice where those lines are going to go. So I gotta just double check on what that is. So 5B, so with my drawing. So in 5B, I can then start to sketch in those lines, and it's not so overwhelming. I have a better idea of where they're going. So when you are taking these one step at a time, as long as you go slow and really, really pay attention to where those, marks line up and where they start and stop. So again, remember, um, so like his eyebrow, for example, his eyebrow starts up here and then lands about halfway. Pay attention to those like negative spaces, and by doing so, hopefully when you are all done, and I know this was a really quick tutorial, when you are all done, you really should have something that's quite similar. Um, so you guys have about a week to work on this. Take your time, and if you have any questions, feel free to email me. The reason that we are doing this is we are going to be doing our own portrait, where we're going to do a black and white self-portrait of ourselves using the grid technique. So that's the whole reason that I'm having you do this, not to just keep you busy because I think you need work to do at home, but this is good practice because we're going to do this exact same technique for our pictures, for our self-portrait. So you're going to have a little bit of practice and it won't be so overwhelming when we get to our drawings of ourselves. I hope you enjoyed our little tutorial, and I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for stopping by.